Welcome to the Autumn-Winter 2024 Symposium. Today we're going to give an overview covering how we arrived to AirClad, the journey so far, why AirClad, so a bit more of our thinking behind it and why we do what we do and what we're striving to achieve. We'll go into the scope of the products that come from that journey, and then we'll go through some of the event commercials that we're looking at for how we take these products to market and bring them to customers around the world. So the journey from an egg cup to what looks like a outer space colony. You know, I see that there's potential to go anywhere with Inflate and AirClad. The journey began with products, and we're now very firmly on the edge of architecture. And the image showing us creating a outer space experience kind of demonstrates that we're working on everything as a product, as a system, to be mobile, transformable and used anywhere. And what better than floating through space? So everything began in 1995 with a brand called Inflate, which I developed from college. So in my final year of graduation at the Royal College of Art, I started to look at the idea of inflatable products for homewares and gift items. As you see here in this picture, it's just a snapshot of some of the products that were done as inflatables and moulded products in the end. And here we have a selection of, in the top left, the UFO light. We have the sugar shaker, the his and her mirror. We have pitch frames, jars. We have the water inflated star vase on the right and the moulded cactus on the left when we started to experiment a bit further beyond inflates in the late 90s. In doing these products, there was a number of things that were going on at the same time. I had this vision where I wanted to create kind of funky household products. We're coming out of the recession of the 80s and early 90s. And there was an optimism in the market, and the thing called Britpop, Brit design was taking hold. And so these kind of pop inspired products using air technology was very much captured the moment, and very quickly these products for us became very successful. We spent, as you see in some of these pictures, the pictures are quite striking, and we invested a lot in the imagery, and this was before the internet, a lot to basically portray how we wanted the products to look and feel, and people would see them in magazines. And the quality of the imagery got us more and more magazine exposure, which led to more and more people seeing the products and wanting the products. And so we had this amazing boom from 96, 97, where the business accelerated, the demand for the products grew. And we found ourselves going around the world doing trade shows in different countries as we opened up distributors in different markets. So to support the sale of these products, we needed to develop a marketing strategy and be at trade shows. That was the place people saw stuff. They weren't online. They were literally physically going around shows, as we still do now, to see stuff. And you see here in this image, the Air image, we started to do trade shows, and we very quickly realised, it was very, very quickly. The first shows that we did classic trade stands with shelves and shop fit with painted wood constructions and stuff like that. But very quickly we realised that there was a compelling opportunity to combine what we were doing with the products to create pop-up trade stands. And this project here, Air, was actually a pop-up retail booth in Monaco, but it captures what we feel was a point that we could see from the trade shows, and what we're doing with the products was that we could create very exciting, engaging spaces by using the same ethos of the product development into structures. And here the walls are gridded to become the shape that we had to kind of display the items. And the whole thing was very light and floated off this glass atrium. And we were able to transport this in the back of a small van. So it was a very efficient way to deliver the show. And then off the back of starting to do these, we went and created this ChromeClad product for a show in the ICFF in New York. And here we were pushing ourselves to actually deconstruct the notion of a classic trade stand and basically reinvent the trade booth purely as an experiential space. So instead of exhibiting all the products, we decided to focus on some key products that we felt created a space that would engage people to come inside and simply take part in experiencing the products. And so this project, we basically stepped outside of those, like we said, the constraints of the trade stand, and we entered the world of experiential marketing, and the Inflates lend themselves to it really well. What happened to us at the time was we realised that basically we were stepping into this new world that basically other brands were being interested in seeing what we did and wanted us to develop structures for them. So we moved away from selling the products, in essence, into becoming an experiential space provider. And predominantly, like with this Red Bull stand, working on interior exhibition. So this was a stand when Red Bull were launching their new Coke brand, and they wanted this Inflate cube space, and we created the space. We created displays with inflatable displays and other things with it. But it kind of demonstrated that what we were doing ourselves was desired by other brands. So we did this one. We continue doing lots of trade stands. We just have this other one here, which is OVO Optics, where we created the kind of combination of the shelving and the shop fit with stretch displays and other things. So again, another pop-up stand that demonstrates the capacity of the Inflate and what we could do. So this whole world took off, and then we get more and more opportunities, like with lastminute.com here. We did create a very sculptural canopy, which was very minimal compared to the rest of what went on, but graphically incredibly bold. The Last Minute brand just stood out against all the other trade stands. And with the Inflate and the sculpture element you can create, what was great with it is that you turn up with a very small bag and you create something that's very sculptural very quickly. Whereas if you were doing this out of solid materials, you would be there whittling away stuff all day. And then obviously the whole thing packs down, you can take it to another show. So you have this opportunity to travel very light and very easily with the systems. Then we realised from these, so like I said, we do a lot more of these stands. It's just a snapshot of how we got on this journey towards AirClad. But realised very quickly, as you see here with this very white picture of the office in the bucket, very clean, we could see, going back to our product roots, that there was an opportunity to start to create pop-up structures as products. So one of the first ones we did was this product called Office in a Bucket, which was simply a clamshell inflatable that you could open and close to encapsulate a space, whether it be a desk or a chill out area or presentation area, whatever it might be. You just simply take it out of a bag the size of a suitcase, inflates in 5 minutes, and you're ready to go, do your event, do your presentation, pack it down, put it back in the suitcase and go. And what you see here is a selection of images. At the top left is the Boxster, the Luna. On the right, you got the Legs 11 and the Panoramic. All of these products were developed as part of our own off-the-shelf collection. The Legs 11 is a pop-up changing room. People also use it as a phone booth. The Luna became like a kind of serving bar and a kind of reception area. The Boxer was a square version of the Office in a Bucket. And the Panoramic, which has no roof, was a great product to give a sense of a pod-like dome space, but indoors where you might have sprinkler systems and other constraints going on, or height constraints, but you still captured the space as if you had a full product to go in. And as you see here on this lovely yellow carpet, this is at GMEX, an event we did with Tim Pine with his arms spread in the middle. We did an event with him where there were 60 pods set up in a couple of hours, saving them a day or two of renting out GMEX. And the cost of renting these pods versus doing the traditional stand build saved them a lot of money, a lot less energy being used transporting them and taking them away, All these pods are reused over and over and over again, so lots of embedded carbon, but lightweight, dynamic, exciting, engaging. And you can see around, people have set up their booths inside, whether it's a table, add a bit of lighting, a little bit of signage, and a very efficient way to create divisions in the space to create a nice positive atmosphere. Then, as we see here, the Unipart structure sitting here at Goodwood, one of the first Goodwood structures we ever did. This was a product where we could see there was a natural trend to move from indoors to outdoors. So as we developed the standard products for indoor events, alongside this in parallel, we were being asked to do outdoor structures. And again, you can see from this Unipart structure, we haven't just gone out and made a structure, we've considered it as a product. It looks like an element, it has a unique graphic appearance, capturing the space. And in here it's 25 meters by 20, and inside was a full car display and all sorts of other interactive things going on. So we moved very quickly to large scale structures. And demonstrating here as well was the ARC structure in New York, where we basically created a partly transparent, because the Times Square in New York is so vibrant and so exciting, we didn't want to lose that. So we created a structure which had clear cells against white cells. And then when you're inside, you get this feeling of the whole of Times Square coming in on you, and you're part of it. And then again, look, you can see the dynamic appearance here. This graphically, you see more shots of it. It graphically stood its own in the space and became part of Times Square. And people were, there was huge amounts of crowds going through it. It was used as a retail experience alongside the trade show. And, people were exhibiting. The flow of people was massive. You could go in one end, out the other. And it just harmonized itself with Times Square, which is for me, is a really good example of where Inflates do really well. It pops up in a couple of hours, can stay there for a week or two, comes down and travels on to another venue. And then again with the smaller products, we did the same with the big products shown here on these two domes in Denmark. We basically started to create a range of standardized products alongside the custom design and build work, like the ARC the project in New York. And then we created a collection of domes, and we did this Lacoste cube. And then here you see where things started to pivot for us, is that when you look on the inside of the Lacoste, they wanted to create a retail experience inside the Inflate. And this is where we could start to see that basically the inflatables are very bold and very dynamic and bring a stunning appearance and a graphic, landmark, and do all sorts of brilliant things to market and communicate your brand. But to a level, they're a canopy, and they don't bring infrastructure with them. They just bring a canopy to encapsulate the space. And as you see here with the Lacoste, we needed to build out trussing and lighting inside. So you had to create a secondary rig, secondary display, and everything else to create the retail experience inside. And this is where the first seeds and the notion that we needed to take Inflate further was born from this project. And again, carrying on with the standardization of the products, so jumping away from the shop fit retail, we were going bigger and bigger and doing bigger and bigger events with inflatables and working to their strengths, which was the speed to deploy and set up and bring space to life. And this event here in Wembley Stadium was one of the very first non-sporting events held in Wembley, which is the World Poker Finals. And in these structures here, we set up 2,600 square meters of structures in one day to host the World Poker Finals. And that saved them a cool £1 million because we set up one day quicker than conventional marquees. And Wembley Stadium at the time was £1 million a day to rent. We saved them £1 million and we delivered it on time, ahead of schedule. And they made more savings than it cost them by miles to rent the structures. But a great example of how using lightweight structures can make commercial sense, dynamic sense. And the event itself looked stunning. And then we come up to this one, which is the RHS structure. It's beautifully set in the Chatsworth House. The grounds, the juxtaposition between the house, as you see the frame marquee, and here the RHS structure that we did in homage to the Paxton. As you see inside, you can see these herringbone features we brought through, which are the glass of the greenhouses, which we reflected into the patterning and the structure of the inflatable we made. And then we changed the fabric orientations to suit the direction of the sun travel, so we have more translucent on the south, on the north facing, and more protective on the south facing. And as you went inside, you see these lovely textures coming through. We integrated this with a full trussing system. It's engineered to full building regs, but we created this 40-meter diameter space to bring to life this whole horticultural experience inside. And so what's happening here is with the inflatables, you can see quite quickly what's happening is it all comes down to scale. They get bigger and bigger as the business grew. The projects got bigger, the demand gets bigger in terms of what you do with them. But what was happening was we were finding ourselves losing ground on this area where our clients were looking to go beyond just covering space, but they wanted to integrate the space and bring features and qualities of architecture to events. And, they knew standard frame marquees offer purely a canopy, and our inflatables were offering a canopy, and we knew we had to build a more integrated product that would bring to life space beyond covering, but in where you could integrate features and functions and other design qualities that would be more architectural. And so we kind of ended up with this sort of unwritten brief, which was we were looking for something that was a product that was scalable. So we knew with the inflatables that we were always at a fixed size, and I always thought, well, it'd be good to have something we could make bigger or smaller so that we had a system that we could use. I wanted it to be so strong. Now with the inflatables, it's very cool and they're very fast and pop up, but when it gets very windy, they move a bit. It doesn't mean they're dangerous, but there's a bit of movement. And I thought, well, we need something that's super strong, super durable, beyond anything anyone already has. So we went beyond where we were. We wanted something that integrated for the facilities, like I keep mentioning. So we're looking for something like what could integrate the facilities, how could they be, how could that work? We wanted it to be intuitive, so basically people could understand it. I didn't want to come up with something that's so complicated everyone looks at it and goes, how the fuck does that work? What do we do with that? We wanted it to be naturally intuitive and easy to use, and then also really easy to service and look after, so that basically you had a product that had durability and long-lasting capabilities. And then that also all sits together with the idea of something that could be set up for a short amount of time, but something that could be left there semi-permanently as well. So these elements were floating around, and we're like, where does this go? What could this be? And so, jumping forwards into AirClad, which is established kind of formally in 2008, but as with all these things, they sort of start in a sort of period of like, well, there's an idea here and an idea there and the moves there, but we kind of say it started in 2008. We sort of land at AirClad, and now I'm going to talk through what AirClad was or is. In 2007, I met an architect who was working on a project in the Middle East, building working on the concept for a container hotel. And we met, and he was suggesting or discussing with me that they had a big problem with heat gain on the containers, and he had this idea that if you wrapped the container hotel with inflatable panels, you could insulate it from heat gain and reduce the energy consumption on the building. I started to look at the project and had an initial idea, which was simply to create these big pillows that wrapped around the building. And we the idea was you'd have a track around the building and you'd wrap around it, and these pillows would insulate the building. And so we started down that route. And we also gave the project, often when we do a project, we give them a title name. And because we were clad in the building with air cells, we just called the project AirClad as a working project. Weirdly, and I wouldn't normally do this, but for some reason I actually decided to register the name and buy the domain names, and created like this this sort of sub-product called AirClad within the business. I had no idea what it was going to be or what was going to happen at the time, but it just felt like there was something in this project. We were looking at potentially doing 7 easy hotels, maybe more, and I thought, well, if we're going to end up doing more of these, we're going to need to productize this, and so kind of gave it a name and registered it. So we started with the project, looking at wrapping them with these big cells like the picture here on the left. Over time, it was clear that the architects really wanted to go down a very formal grid ident and create air panels, so basically creating hundreds of 1 metre by 3 metre panels that would clad the building. And so we developed the design more as a clip-in tile, as an air tile that went on it. And we did the project, and we did all the testing, all the development, got everything approved, did all the thermal tests, did the whole lot. Everything was ready to go, and it was signed off. And then the 2008 credit crunch came along, and the project was aborted, and we were back to square one. Well, when I say back to square one, we were without a project. And so I kind of thought that it was quite interesting what we'd done. And I realised that actually if you took the containers away, all the substructure we'd constructed was could be a building in its own right. And so I kind of started to think about, well, what could we do with this? I wasn't making the connection to the events industry at this stage. So the first project I looked at doing as a test piece was a project here on the house in Suffolk. And we started initially with the tile system. So we literally took the tiled version of the AirClad, and the company that was making the tiled versions was in Italy, and I called them up and said, look, I want to build this 5 metre by 5 metre structure as a test structure in England using these tiles to create like what would be effectively a conservatory. And they said, yeah, sure, we can do it. It'd be 6 months. And I was like, 6 months? There's no fucking way I'm waiting 6 months for this. This is crazy. And I'd always thought, when I first was looking at this, and then was looking at building the extension, I always liked the idea that you could almost buy the parts from your local builder. And so like your local builders merchants, and then assemble it. So I went back to the original design, which was the wraparound system. I thought, well, okay, let's forget the tiles and all the substructure and everything else. Let's just create a frame. We'll build the track, and we'll wrap the air cell around it and glaze the end, so we have like a big window. And this is what we built. We built the first prototype. It took us quite a long while to do it because there were lots of changes and thoughts along the way. And this design also was like sort of small foundations built in. So we kind of built this one with like kind of a bit of a cross between how a builder would build a conservatory and how AirClad would build itself. And this project is still on the house, still being used as a bedroom. It's been there since 2008. It was finished in 2009. It still does what it does. It stood up in all weather. We wouldn't finish a product exactly like this now, but it works very well. But it taught me that we didn't need to work with the tile system. We could go back to the original AirClad frame. So by this time, we were calling things AirClad. And we did another test piece. So having built the prototype on the house, at the same time decided to build a independent version, which you see here on the roof terrace in London. And we built a 4 by 3 metre pod, and we stuck it on our roof terrace in London to demonstrate it as a kind of extension to a building. You could just go and capture roof space. The business model wasn't to build pods that went on roofs at the time, even though we can. It was really to show the structure, because the main railway line into London was along the side of the building, and it meant people could see it. So we put a phone number up, and we just sort of waited to see what happened. Before we'd done this, actually, we'd showed it at a trade show in London, 100% design, and we pitched it as a garden office. And we had a lot of enthusiasm, but actually no one actually went for it. So we're kind of a bit lost of what AirClad was going to be at this stage. So putting it on the roof seemed like a good idea. and we'll see what happened. We used it for meetings. As you can see, there's a little desk, table and chairs, desks in there. And then we waited to see what happened. And then, strangely, a guy called us up, and he had a pizza restaurant in London, in Brick Lane, called Al Volo. And he had umbrellas outside. And in the winter, he couldn't make as much business. In the summer, it was great. The umbrellas were great. People were sitting outside, and he had a full house. And in the winter, it just didn't work. And he approached us and said, look, I'd like to build like a temporary extension to my restaurant that we can then use throughout the winter. And so the idea was, let's get rid of the umbrellas and we'll build a restaurant and people will be able to sit out there if there's no space inside. We built it and set it up, and it was a massive success. And what actually happened was the people inside were people booking the restaurant that would normally go inside was specifying to be outside. So the pod in winter became the place they wanted to be. And so we'd managed to completely subvert his business model, which was in winter no one wants to be outside, to the fact that everyone wants to be outside, no one wanted to be inside. And so this was a great success. We actually had one of our Christmas parties in there, and at night he used to pull the tables back and there would be a DJ, so it actually become like an after restaurant space as well. So not only did he now have a pizza restaurant, he also had like a little mini nightclub that went on into the early hours of the morning, which was all a success. And I thought, wow, this is it. When we made this pod, it wasn't the most beautiful thing in my eyes, but it was exciting, and it was a pop-up, and it worked, and it was a restaurant, and it did everything it was meant to do. It was exciting, people were booking it, and I thought, wow, we're going to make millions of these, or maybe not millions, maybe hundreds of these, and we're going to be incredibly successful. This is what AirClad's going to be. It's going to be this sort of pop-up restaurant extension, and we made no more. We had no more inquiries after that. There was an inquiry later on, but due to unfortunate circumstances, the client passed away, and we weren't able to. The project didn't even begin before it ended. But so that was sort of buried, and we sort of moved on, not knowing what was happening. Made a few prototypes with AirClad again after it. Made a little office showroom pod and a few other bits, but it wasn't until around, I think, about 2011, 2010. that Puma called us up, and they had been touring containers with their Volvo Ocean Race sponsorship, and they'd realised that whilst shipping containers around the world as part of their event seemed like a really good idea on the surface of it, they realised that there were limitations to it in terms of when you're on site installing, utilisation of space, etc., etc. They found that the containers were exciting, but they were also limiting. And what they wanted was a product that was scalable, but kind of had a relationship to the containers. And they'd seen the AirClad, and they asked us if we thought we could create an AirClad event space to complement the containers, and with a roof terrace, and create a big 12 metre by 12 metres event inside. So basically we designed and engineered this. We produced this one in Lithuania. It was the first big construction. I had a Lithuanian in-house designer, and so we actually built it with her father's factory, and it was great. We went through a massive learning curve with the client. Again, massive engineering on this, the terrace and everything else. We've learned a lot since this on how we would refine things, but it was in my eyes a really big success. But we learned a lot. But the big thing for us was when we did this project, the penny dropped. It was like, oh, actually, why don't we turn AirClad into this premium event system that we've been looking for? This one that delivers on this brief, this kind of unwritten brief that was mulling around while we were doing our Inflate structures. And so with the kind of combination of, app hazard products with AirClad, culminating in this event with Puma, and then seeing what that was all about, the realisation was there that AirClad should become this event system. That was going to be its starting point. And so, we did a few small projects, and then in 2013 we did a project for Kia down in Melbourne. We delivered 2 structures for them, and Kia were the main sponsor, and you see in this picture they wanted a showpiece that was not a frame marquee. You see the marquee in the background where they've built a frame marquee and put branding over it. Kia wanted an architectural statement, and the AirClad was absolutely the answer for them. And we built this piece for them, and they used it for the duration of their sponsorship, so it was a number of years, and it was incredibly impactful. Politically on site in Australia, there's a lot of issues in terms of being a new incumbent coming in with a new system, but we overcome them all. The engineering was there, we certified everything, demonstrated it would work, something that we've done ever since. I mean, all the structures ever since, we've done full engineering country to country to get the, what's needed to implement the products there. But this is great. So you see in this structure, I keep saying it's great, we see in this structure that we were starting to look at what the visual DNA was going to be of AirClad. And so, we have a space frame, which is the main frame, which is hooked together with cross braces, and the air cell wraps around it, and you screw the fascia on the front and bottom, the floor is integral, etc., etc. So here we were trying to turn it into the first kind of the step towards a product. And that worked, we could kind of see where it was going. I thought, we can kind of harmonise this and create a range. And then we were there on site, and there was this huge pallet, and I was like, what's in that pallet? I was like, well, everything else looks like it's here. And it was like, no, they're the nuts and bolts. There's 6,000 of them. I was like, whoa, 6,000 nuts and bolts. Anyway, we put it all together, bolted it all up. But on the plane on the way back, I was like, we've got to get rid of these nuts and bolts, because we need to streamline this. An event system that has 6,000 nuts and bolts to put it together is not going to be good on many levels. Time, complexity, it's not going to be intuitive, it's going to be laborious. It's going to have bits that go missing, which is going to cause issues. So on the plane on the way back, we kind of sat there and thought, right, how can we edit out every single nut and bolt? And we managed to get rid of all of the nuts and bolts between the front and rear fascia. We still have some small fixings to hold the glazing on and stuff like that on the front and rear, but the rest all clips together with no nuts and bolts now. And so we came back, we re-engineered the system, we verified that it would work, because when you inflate it, it pressurizes the structure. So all the fixings we were making, what they were actually doing after it was inflated were actually not really relevant. So basically re-engineered it, and you see here in this black and white picture of the exploded frame that we've got, the upper and lower space frames that slot together, and then the cross braces hook in. You can see this on the video on the website that we'll put a link to. You can see how this all goes together, and so everything in the middle, the floor lays down, the cross braces slot together. It's only and then the air cells wrap around the building and pressurise to grip it, and it's only the front and rear glazing panels that we have fascia pucks that hold them in place, and everything else hooks in to the system. So from here, you see the Lotus structure. This is where the first step, where we actually introduce the click together system. This is Goodwood Festival Speed. So we're back here after the Unipart structure. We're back again now with AirClad. And you see in the background the Chinese tent structures and the AirClad's dynamic outer space experience. And so we created the grid, which is 2.5 metre centre, and 1 metre grid on the fascia. This is 10 metre wide, so we do a 4, 6, 10, 12 metre wide system, 3 metres high, and we do specials at 4 metres and 6 metres high. But this essentially became the grid that we've stuck with ever since. So to this day, this is still the grid. And so this proved that we could do, that we could take it and streamline it. And where the Kia project was about an 8-day build of all those nuts and bolts, this became less than 8 hours, and it just clicked together. And we transferred all the design into aluminium, so it's lighter. So everything about it became progressively better and better and better, safer to use, faster to operate, way more intuitive. And then the clients got the dynamic architecture to bring their space alive with their brand. And so everything was harmonising as we wanted it to be. And since then, the journey really has been just a hop, skip and a jump along. This is a 4 metre wide version at the Royal College of Art. Same grid, same height, uses, we're sharing doors and fascias. So from one system to the other, the cross braces are shared, the flooring is shared. So we've streamlined and maximised reuse of components across the system. Here you see exactly what we love our clients to do. 10 metre wide system, 5 metres deep for Delta Airlines, and they created a kind of pop-up, very sort of like loungy, co-work vibe space with this at Canary Wharf in London. They brought it to life. We built the shell scheme and they make it come together, and here is a really nice example of the purity of what you can do with the AirClad. Here again, we're in Berlin with the PlayStation, and here we have a double height with a mezzanine and single height, and got the engineering for the TÜV in Germany, as I mentioned earlier about engineering. This is what's great with the AirClad. The core system is overly designed and engineered in its standard form. So when it comes to certification, it's just a process of going through the certifications. We don't need to reinvent the system works. And so we feel confident now everywhere in the world to take the products to, and it's just a case of the formality of whatever documents, planning documents or event documents that are needed from event to event. And so here again, the client put stickers on the side, they built out the interior. This was by the Brandenburg Gate, fantastic location. The other thing I don't mention was like all of our structures we design, you can see in 360 degrees. So we don't, sometimes there's a back of house for the client's needs, but actually the structures are engineered to have no need for foundations or tethering lines. So you can set the product up like parking a car, you can walk around it, and it's it's a 360 degree experience. It's not just a single side experience. So from this, we basically we're there. We kind of got the system. We're going, and then it's a case of evolving. And when I come to the product range in a second, you'll see where we end up. So event architecture. We, in terms of what we've been doing, we're not looking at where we're at and where we've come from. Product designers designing products, but what we see in the world of events is the need to bring these events products to the edge of architecture, and that's been our whole journey with AirClad. Is what can we do to create shell scheme spaces that have got a dynamic architectural quality that allows our brands and clients, agencies to come in and stamp their event in it, bring it to life and make everything work. So as you see here, my passion is to design great products. That's my thing. This is a product. It's a system. It's a technology. It's a system. It's modular, but it's a product. These are products that happen. So we're really driving at the idea of architecture as a product. I say as well in the studio, there's no such thing as a shit brief. Sometimes you're working on a project and it doesn't seem exciting. That's an alarm bell. It doesn't mean you need to carry on. You just need to understand more about the brief and work with the client or the agency to basically understand more of what it's about and pull out the bits that are not right. If we're designing, developing products that are going to be reused and reused, we want to understand how to make them as brilliant as possible. So we want to evolve the brief to make sure that the end product is great for our clients, for the end brands, and really for customers that interface with what we're doing. We want them to be excited and engaged and inspired by this. We're often in the world of marketing and communications, and there's nothing better than making people happy and inquisitive with where they're at. So we don't, there's no such thing as a shit brief. We just have to pull it out and make it brilliant. I'm not saying, it doesn't happen a lot, but it's just part of our ethos of actually looking at the positive side of everything. We're applying our experience and intellect to creativity. We land in a very compelling place because what we're doing is we are
learning from everything we're doing. We're theorising, testing, building, learning, reflecting, and then we're using creativity to ignite this and accelerate it and bring it to new places. And this is really important. We don't run what we're doing as a business as a business that's just about a business. This is a journey. This is an evolution. This is about us learning, our clients learning, and us constantly breaking new boundaries. And it's really important that the creativity is absolutely key to how this happens. We've put more and more structure into the business to help creativity. All of the systems that we put in and the layers of people involved, doesn't matter what anybody's doing, everybody's there to help make things better. We're all in, we will say everybody's in quality control and then they have a job. So everybody's part of the process. It doesn't matter what we're doing. So like when we're on site, often on site, we'll see things and things will come up. We think, right, okay, that's interesting. We need to work with that. We need to do that. So every aspect, you can't sit at your desk just designing solutions. You have to live in what's going on. The experience and the gaining of intellect married with creativity is what makes it potent. And that's really important to us. Who wants ugly things? I just put this here. Years ago I did a project which was called Ugly, and I was working with a girl at the Royal College on this, and it was a competition, and everything we tried to design that was ugly we looked at and laughed at ourselves. We said it's the most beautiful thing we've ever seen. I was like, we sort of concluded like we can't make anything ugly. The more ugly we make it, the more beautiful we find it. But there is a thing like if you don't go about it the right way, inherently we're working with a process that leads us to beautify stuff, and that's really important. People are attracted to good looking stuff. It's part of the process. Don't we end up with ugly things? Normally ugly things are the result of a misaligned process or a misaligned design, or a design is not getting the answer right to the brief. That's why it's ugly. And so ugly is a warning. Like if you put something in your mouth and it tastes disgusting, it's your body warning you that it's wrong. And ugly is a warning of wrong, of error. So no one wants ugly. They might accept it because of various reasons, or they think they have to accept it because they're not worthy, or good looking is expensive. It's completely untrue. Ugly is just a sign of, it's just a warning that something isn't working. And they're coming on, it kind of comes from, and the reason I'm again saying this is that I believe from birth we're given a natural creative ability to distinguish from good and bad design. It's like that taste warning. And so I think, like I watched my children as they grew up, they migrated to beautiful things, and they were not attracted to ugly things. They weren't my designs, they just naturally were that way inclined. So we do know inherently inside us what we like and what we don't like. There is a system to it. And so I look at stuff, and if it looks ugly, I'm like saying to myself, what's gone wrong? So I'm looking for things that are bum-clenchily sexy, because that means they're more right than right. And so we need to keep this in mind when we're working. It's very important to us. Jumping to the side a bit, as a result, AirClad is a case of form follows function. There isn't anything that's gone on in this product that's not about what it should be. And so AirClad becomes unique. It's something they can't get elsewhere. People might copy it, but they're not copying the DNA of what we're about. And that's what's really important, is we're on a mission, and we're challenging and reflecting on what we're doing, and we're on a long-term plan. And so our clients, it's not about just the look that they can't get elsewhere. When they understand what we're doing and what we're thinking about and how we approach the projects, like we said, with ugliness, etc., we are with you, with our clients, to guide through the process to get to a brilliant place. And we're striving to put all the resources around AirClad and keep building on those resources to make that right place as bigger and as bolder as it can be. And as I said, form follows function. And how does AirClad stand out? The corner radiuses are there because we That's how we pull the air cells in. It's how we make the structure efficient, how it becomes modular and reusable, and how the air pressure is standardised. And all of the details on the cross braces and the puck fixings and everything. We've engineered everything to suit exactly what we do. And it ends up being what it is. And form follows function, as I said, ugliness and beauties. If you follow this process, you will end up with what is the right, beautiful product. And so, these are all guiding principles. They're all there to help us get to where we need to be in a good place. And intrinsically, we're resolving things and finishing details and colours and everything else to end up with a really nice, the point of the design being what it should be. It's all harmonised together.
Encouraging the opportunity of chance. When I first started doing inflatable products, initially I was drawing products, designing on paper. And I was sketching up inflatables and then trying to make them. And everything I made was a disaster. It was all ugly. And as I said earlier, ugly means something is wrong. And I continued to do this, but I was, just fighting. Eventually I gave up. It's like, this isn't going anywhere. There's nothing I was making that I knew anybody would want. And then, whilst I was working on a weird pop-up toaster concept, where you push the toaster down and the whole thing popped up a bit like a kind of drum, concertina in drum, I made some, flexible cladding. And when I made the cladding, it wasn't inflatable or anything, but when I was welding them and I cut the patterns to make it concertina and fold as I wanted, I looked at it and I welded 3 of them a bit wrong, in the wrong places. And when I looked at it, I was like, if you continued welding those together, you'd create a kind of bowl. And I was like, well, if I made that inflatable and the air ran through, we'd have an inflatable bowl. And that's what led to the fruit bowl in this picture. And it dawned on me that the process of finding things was not sitting down and regurgitating what's in your head, which is effectively everything you've seen in your life. And that's not a bad thing. When you read Steve Jobs' book, he harnessed lots of things he saw through his life to influence solutions to problems and opportunities he was seeing. But when you're developing something, you sometimes, particularly when you're young and starting out, there isn't enough information there or touch points to work with. And this showed to me that actually chance is a fantastic way to take yourself beyond what you know. And encouraging the opportunity of chance is a process. It doesn't have a result that's guaranteed, but it's a process and a purpose that encourages something to happen. And then your job is to be observing around you and then putting together the opportunities to kind of create the solution. It's exactly what Dyson did with the vacuum cleaner. He knew what his problem was and he wanted to, as the famous story, we wanted to stop the lack of suction in the airbag as it filled the pores. And he was like, well, if we got rid of the airbag, how could we suck the thing up without a bag, etc., etc. And then he was in the sawmills or cyclone system extracting the dust from the air, blah, blah, blah. And it's that opportunity of chance again. And so this fruit bowl was my incarnation of realising that the future of developing my business was to create a platform which encourages the opportunity of chance. And this has stayed with me from then to now, and it's exactly how I work. I am looking to encourage things to happen. You don't know the result, but you believe something could happen. And as you build up a repertoire of experiences and knowledge, you can then apply that more readily to solving problems. So, coming to here, I was seeing patterns in the landscape ahead, learning from the past. So I spend my time now, so coupled with the, encouraging the opportunity of chance, as I said earlier about, avoiding ugliness as a warning, you start to see the landscape ahead. You start to think about the future. And that's what really excites me, because I'm not looking at the future and wanting to kind of create and imply solutions. and looking at the future to look for patterns. And we're looking back as well. What's happened before? What looks like it's happening? What are the patterns we're seeing? Because it's those patterns that are giving us interesting information to follow. And the events world, because it moves so fast and churns so quickly, we have lots and lots of patterns and experiences that we can actually learn and build from. I love this shot from Michelin. It's with the statement, you have to be out there doing stuff to learn to move forwards. This is what's great when you're in the events business and you've got structures that are out being rented and moved around and used. You're out there doing stuff, you're learning. It's a fantastic experiential model. Experiential in terms of the end product and what it means for the brand, but it's also experiential in terms of what we learn as a business, how we learn with our structures, what we see is happening with clients and customers and activations. And so you just have to be out there doing stuff. I'm a big fan of, maybe I say yes too many times, but I like to see things happen. I like to, learn from it and get as much knowledge as possible. And now with all the structures we have going out and the new ones coming and the new projects that are being developed, they're creating layers and layers and layers and layers of knowledge. And it's this knowledge that we keep moving forwards with, which is really important. But it's also really important that as we all do stuff, that we're sharing information. As we live more remote, we say we live more remotely. My business is all over the world with people that I don't see very often. So there's a lot more emphasis on us communicating together to basically share information, share ideas, and that's really important. And these products are spinning around, generating that that energy and enthusiasm that we're all gaining to move forwards. And not just for AirClad, but for everything we do. It's all knowledge. I dropped this image in, hot mess. It's it could sound a bit like an apology, but it's not. I was reading the Pixar book, and they talk about the early days where they worked in a hot mess, where you're innovating, you're at the cutting edge, and you're producing at the same time. And in that position, they refer to it as a hot mess, which is it's live and you're doing something, but there's no other way, because actually, as I said about being out there learning stuff, the hot mess is the only way for the companies at the pinnacle of what's going on to exist, because we are learning and challenging the boundaries, and we can conceptualize and test and do all sorts of things that's not live. But ultimately, you need to go live to really see what's happening, and you will always be pushing stuff. And Pixar's a fantastically successful example of how a hot mess builds a unique business, and this is what we are in the process with AirClad. We are in the process of learning and building a unique business with structures at the moment, predominantly in events, but we see the structures being the system and the structures being used on a much broader level, and we're writing our own scripts. That's what we're doing. We're building our script, we're developing it, we're testing it, and we are live and making things happen that haven't happened before. As the business grows, there's an incredible amount of product behind that now that isn't in the kind of hot mess category. It's tried, tested and proven, but there's always going to be innovation where we're pushing further ahead, because there are clients who need stuff where they've now seen what we can do, and we've opened their minds up to the next level, and we're on that journey together. So we have this element of hot mess that's going on. And then here we'll jump to the IBM creativity live in action. This is it, hot mess, creativity live in action. You go through a process that's hard. These processes are challenging. We're developing and resolving solutions to problems that haven't been there before because of what we do and what the journey we're on. I've just been on a call with Harrods this morning. Exactly that. We are in a very exciting project with nuances to the structures that we've never encountered before, nor they, because we're doing something that hasn't been done before on top of the building. And we will be, it's creativity live in action, and we will be bringing that to life. We will be resolving all those elements, and hopefully, as we resolve them, we create more handwriting, more uniqueness to what AirClad is about and to what it can do. And here we say good mistakes and bad mistakes. We're not looking to make mistakes, but a good mistake is a mistake that teaches us something and we learn from it. A bad mistake is a mistake we make again. It's talked about a lot in all sorts of business books. It's really important. We are learning fast, moving forwards, not doing it again, building on it. But there's always going to be things that we learn, and we have to bear that in mind. And again, as a team, we need to work together to optimise solutions, learn from it, communicate from it, and go forwards, because these become tools as we go forwards. They become the essence of what makes us stronger and better. So AirClad is a project. This picture here is the first inflatable I ever made, the college project. And what you see now with AirClad is an evolution from this inflatable portfolio. It's got water being thrown on it. It's back in the 90s when, students, kind of the concept of inflatable portfolio, water, armbands, blah, 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 blah. But basically, we have evolved from this moment, hanging an inflatable portfolio on the line and going, wow, there's something in the idea of an inflatable as a functional product, taking it out of its context and putting it into a new area. And what we are now is just literally the continuation of that project. And along the way, we've created an incredible amount of products. So there's rationalization, there's new theories, concepts we're developing, the patterns we see, the knowledge we're gaining, and as much as possible we share this because this helps all of us to improve what we do, how we use creativity as a potent element to accelerate value, accelerate opportunities. We generate ideas and put our belief behind them to create products. And going back to it, all the things I've said, it's like we do it. What we mean by that is I make stuff, I test stuff. Over the years, I've built hundreds, thousands of concepts and products. Too many. Every single day I'm thinking about something, drawing something, making something, sticking something, saving something, etc., etc. But I love when we just apply our belief and make something happen. It's really exciting. And like at the moment, I'm on a house project, and it's like we're just going to build it. Let's just build the house and see what it looks like. So last night I had a massive conversation around that, what it would mean, where would we put it. But it's like, my view is, let's do it. I believe in it. I'm going to make it happen. It's as simple as that. It's not complex. We call it JFDI, just fucking do it. And that's how life needs to be. You don't want to ruin yourself over it, but inside you when there's that burning moment that it has to happen. You just know it. It's like a nag. You just got to go off and do it. And I would imagine it's why people like, Columbus sailed around the world, or Shackleton went to the pole. It's all these things of like, there's just a burning desire to do it. You've got to do it. Something inside you is like, I have to make this happen. It's a kind of responsibility. If I don't do it, someone else might not do it, or might not do it soon enough, and it needs to happen because we need to know what's at the other side so we can go to the next level. It's all about the journey we go on to get to the next level. And here with the Audi, the Audi structure, we use creativity to create value. It's so binary. I love it. It's like creativity creates value. And I use, can use so many examples. I'm just going to use Ed Sheeran, as I've used a few times recently. He's got a guitar and the thing he puts his foot on, and he creates music. And that music creates various emotional responses, all sorts of excitement and consumption and a business. And all of a sudden from that, he's created value. He has made his sound has become a value, it's become a business. It's spawned off businesses and support businesses around it. Pure creativity is creating value, and it creates value from very little. And I think that's what's amazing about creativity. When we look at all the problems around us in the world, actually the application of creativity to create value is the single most efficient thing we can do. We should be nurturing and learning and developing all of the time. We should be encouraging it. We should be supporting it. I was saying to someone, it's not about how much money you've got, because money is part of the creative process. If you don't have much money, your creativity is constrained. but you can still be creative, because when you unlock the potential with that constraint, the result is even more potent. If you give someone 2 billion quid and say, design me a toaster, they'll spend the rest of their life designing you a toaster. They won't actually get there. But if you said to someone, look, we need a toaster by lunchtime, we've got this, this and this, and not much else, what could we do? People would improvise, they would develop something. And then actually, if you then post-rationalise what you've done, think about what you've done, what does it mean, why did I do that, how did it happen, could I have done this better, would I do this better, would more people want this? You start to go down this process of creating value through creativity. And constraint can be the mother of creativity. So I never like it, like I said earlier about bad briefs and stuff. There's nothing holds back creativity. And as brutal as it might seem, and as constrained as it might seem, in my mind, when you invert that constraint, you get more power than ever to be creative, and you create value. Every single problem we have in the world can be resolved with creativity, not guns, and less so tech. Tech is a tool within creativity. Creativity owns tech. Creativity owns AI. And weapons are pointless, futile. They're for the weak and the foolish. Creativity is our device to improve and to make everything much, much, much better. We have to learn and we have to reflect. I have some measures to value in AirClad or in my business of what I do. I'm looking for knowledge. So it's one of my values. So every year I sort of reflect on the year that's gone by, and I look to see which volumes of these have I got. And you don't expect them all to be at 100%. It's a mixture of like the year, where do you get to? So knowledge is a really important measure of value. What am I learning? What have I learned? What have others learned? What are we informing to others? Community. Are we building more people around us? Are people understanding what we're doing, coming in, learning from it, moving on, working with us, helping us to develop more? The community is really, really, really important. Asset for what we do. As I said, the more assets we have, the more we're out there, the more we're exposing what we do, the more we're informing and inspiring others. So the growth of assets is important. That's a really strong value measure. Financial reward, profit is a result, not purpose, in my mind. If we do everything right, there will be financial reward. But in a year, sometimes we spend a lot on knowledge or asset, and financially we have less. So the financial reward is for me is a balance of what's left over from the success versus what we want to invest into. But it's a very important measure, because if there isn't a financial reward on any level, then it doesn't work. And it goes back to everything I've just said about ugliness, patterns, knowledge, creativity. If you get it right, it will naturally create reward. If something isn't working, it won't. And time, added time to this. As I've got older, time is becoming more valuable, and this is a big measure of my value now. Is like, how much of my time is being used well? How much time do I have to think and consider? And so these are my sort of 5 measures that I look at on a yearly basis of the value of the business or what we're creating, and those are really important. As I said, I suppose from here it kind of becomes a business, and it's a project, but it sort of becomes a business. I'm always scared to use the word business, because as soon as you say business, it's not creative. If it's not creative, it's not doing all the things that make things brilliant. And businesses are just a support mechanism to creativity, to help make creativity work. And so, that's really important. And so the network we build and the partners we build and who we work with, a lot of them have real businesses. That's not to play them down in terms of their value, because they're incredibly valuable. And to everybody we work with, their business is structured in their own way. So what I say here is how I value my business and what I do. It doesn't mean it's the only way. I believe in some of the stuff we do. I think socially, economically, and politically are actually quite important things to follow. But businesses have many, many different reasons to do it, and people have businesses for very passionate reasons, or legacy reasons, or strategic reasons. So it's a different thing. but we like to interface and learn from other people. But it's really important that this element is there, because this is the network that makes the whole business scale and value, great value. So, creativity will win you projects, but operations will deliver you the championship. And I've used these two lines from Alex Ferguson, who said, the strikers will win you games, but your defence will win you the championship. And I don't think it's different in the world we're in, where creativity is used to spearhead engagement. But at the end of the day, we have to deliver, and the knowledge of how we deliver and the structure around that makes it brilliant. It's all well and good, like if Ed Sheeran writing his albums are really good and everyone's excited, but no one can get them, or every time they get them it's got a glitch in it so it doesn't sound right. All the excitement would not be delivered through. So you've got to match everything together. You need a brilliant system for creativity to innovate and flourish, but then the operational side to deliver and make sure it works well, so that creativity is relevant and purposeful. We make decisions together as a team. There is a lot of ideas in this world, a lot of things we share, a lot of opinions we share, and we need to work as a team to make decisions. So I sit here saying what I feel. It's what I feel. It's not what I enforce on everybody else. It's how I work, how I tick, how I function. And other people can be different. And we have to make decisions together and work as a team. So we're looking to find balance and use what we all know to optimise what we're doing. But I always want to be on the offensive. I want us to be the front forward. Don't want to be running into the future with one foot at the back, kind of being slightly backwards as we go forwards. I want to be bold enough to go forwards and go, no, this is what we believe in. We're going to test it, we're going to prove it, we're going to make it happen, we're going to learn, and we're going to keep moving forwards. And I want that momentum, because it needs to be definitive that we're confident in what we're doing. And we are confident. I'm confident. It's like a burning desire to get on with it. It's just knowing sometimes the order in which to do it, because there's so many ideas. And so being on the offensive is really, really, really important. Who or what is our competition? I get asked this question a lot. The obvious thing is people are asking us the competition, like you see in this picture. Is it a frame marquee, or is it a container? Is it a venue? What is it? We always look at the solidity of the competitors. So I see our real competition not about the physicality of other structural alternatives or venue alternatives, but I see the competition as social media, the digital channels. As I said earlier, these channels sit within creativity. AI and tech is in the creative bubble, and they are sucking up cheap eyes, cheap budgets, and spreading them thin across huge volumes of people. And I think that I really believe as we move forwards that the physical relationships that people have and the physical moments as we live in this uber challenging tech world, that we will become more, it'll be more potent in terms of those connections, and the values are stronger. And I know this when I look at what happens with AirClad. We have a huge engagement in a yearly basis, but we have a lot lower actual result engagement. And it's not a bad thing. It just shows you that with the way the world is now, people are seeing more and more stuff and asking lots of questions. And some people we're not right for, or it's not right for them at the time, etc., etc. And so you're looking, when you're trying to push things forwards and make things happen and create value and learn stuff, you're looking to get the engagement with your partners where it really works, where the relationship is right. And I've never said that AirClad is for everyone. It makes sense where it makes sense, and the art is finding out, is getting those connections. And social media is great in exploding lots of connections, but actually physically being with people helps you to make much deeper bonds and deeper connections. And so I see these as the real competition. I think these are the people we need to be challenging to say, look, it's all well and good, but what are you really doing? You're just creating a very flat, low-value entertainment level, which is then used to communicate and market products on. But it's all becoming lower and lower diluted solutions as I watch it. And so what you're left with is things are becoming less and less purposeful. So we want to basically challenge this, and that's where the competition is. When it comes to physical structures, whether it's another marquee company or a container company or whatever it might be, I actually see them in, if you're going to look at a marquee or look at an AirClad, you're not comparing the same. A marquee is a completely different product. It gives you completely different things to an AirClad. So when you know what you want to do and what your brief is, you will understand whether a marquee is the right product or an AirClad. So it's not a competition, it's a rational thought process. Use an AirClad where it makes sense, use a marquee where it makes sense. Same with a container. Use a container where it makes sense, use an AirClad where it makes sense. Look at the reasons of what you're trying to do and the values you're trying to create, and look at what makes the most sense. And it does vary. So I don't look at them as competition, I just look at them as the correct alternatives that sit alongside what we offer. But our journey is how we take our tech and technology to open up opportunities in events and other industry where mobilising structures with a premium architectural quality add value and bring value. So I mentioned here that low-cost entertainment attracts low-value clients. Low-cost entertainment, so it can also be an asset. So, we use it to communicate and keep people up to date, but I have a love-hate relationship with it. That's the honest truth. I have to say to myself, okay, Instagram, just put up good-looking images. LinkedIn, network connections. TikTok, a kind of behind-the-scenes relevance. YouTube I quite like because we can build a deeper communication with what we do by creating, like we do with this, creating like little movies where people can listen to or watch and learn a little bit more in depth about what we're doing. So we use YouTube as our deeper channel to put more of what we're about into it. But at the end of the day, for us, it's about getting physical. I'd much rather be standing on stage in a structure telling you what we're doing. It's much more exciting. And that's because the live interactions can lead to high-value relationships. That's where, we make connections. We are humans. We are social. We want to understand people. We're very judgmental as well. So like when we meet people, we are making judgments on them, and it's interesting. It's not a good or a bad thing. It's just how we're programmed, and so live interactions can be a way to build relationships on a much deeper level. I put here the truth has a lot of competition. Physical reality and sharing experience is a common truth. The reason I put this is that I've become fascinated in the last years about how social media and news channels are heavily influenced by their owners, and also that the way the algorithms work now, that the more of the same information that's being conveyed, the more that's picked up as truth. So if someone says a lie 20 million times, it could be seen as a truth. So truth has a lot of competition, because the truth is what I believe and what you believe, and often somewhere between the two of us. And so we have to work very hard to regather truth, and physical reality and sharing experience is a common truth. When you are both in a space together, doing something, experiencing something, it is a common truth. So whilst it's not necessarily relevant to what a lot of things, it's very important at the moment that truth is in this journey. So why AirClad? Bring space to life and life to space. This is it in a nutshell. We are developing products and systems to bring space to life and life to space. And you are part of that journey we don't create the whole thing. We create part of it. We do what we believe is the heavy lifting on the physical side to create the platforms and the technology to then ultimately bring it to life. And as you saw with some of the projects earlier, clients, brands, agencies, they're coming in and making their interpretation of the space and bringing it to life. So that's how it works. We're together. It's a team. Here, this image here of the surfer, we are, as a brand, going to be engaging more in kind of social and physical activities that we believe support some of our ethos of bringing space to life. And so we sponsored a surfing event this year and plan to next year, where we love the idea that you turn up at the beach with your surfboard, and if 20 of you turn up, all of a sudden a scene is created, and this is our bringing space to life. And we like the idea that we could bring another level by financially supporting the surfers and also bringing some of our structures to the beach to create even more life and experience around it. So we're going to be following this, and we intend to follow more activities like this as we go forward. So we're not looking to do like boring trade shows. We're looking to do things that we think are engaging and exciting and kind of in line with how our clients work. We're trying to emulate and be part of that ecosystem of doing these things together. Fighting the urge to numb out behind the screen. I believe all of the support we want to do is going to be with young people. They are the future. They are the people that we know between the ages of 1 and 16 are informed the most in life about what they become. It's model. The youth are modelled and they become what their experiences are. So we definitely want to be really supporting that. We create space for human moments, for events and other activities to happen, and for communities to come together. And nothing could have highlighted this better than this year, where we sponsored Zest, who are a local, in Lincoln, a local theatre group who wanted to create, during the summer, a travelling youth club throughout Lincoln to bring children together in the summer who would be just roaming the streets otherwise, and create various events for them to get involved in, from art, music, dance, theatre, etc. And we created and supplied AirClad Extra unit and the Luna and some other bits that you see here in the picture. Like, it's set up outside the waterside, and this travelled around from event to event, set up for a week or two at each location. I'm so pleased about being involved in this. Again, it's like the surfing, it's for young children. We absolutely want to support as many young children as possible in the future with our structures, because we believe that we can create spaces which they relate to, which they are energised by, and we want to do more and more of this. And these moments are really, really important to us. So from the AirClad network, we have a various set of relationships that we have in regards to events. We have ambassadors who are there, where we work with to bring part of building a network or bringing specific projects or building brand awareness. We have premium partners, again, bringing their network, helping build the network and clients. They have their own clients. Part of building brand awareness with us, because they'll be out using and operating the structures. But these premium partners also store structures, so they're storing and operating, and all part of our premium level AirClad experience. We also have authorised partners who don't actually have stock but are part of our premium network, so they can use structures from our premium partners for doing events. So they might do the odd event or multiple events or touring events, or they might be people that are interested in storing and operating structures but they want to test it first. So they're a core part of developing the AirClad. Then we have AirClad Pro Crew. We've realised over the last years, particularly since COVID, that getting quality crew has become harder and harder. And also because we have our system, whilst it's intuitive and easy to use, it's a unique system. And so we are in 2025 going to embark upon the start of a crew training academy program where we're going to train more crew and build a big roster to cover project managers, crew leaders, crew, and all of this will be available on a central portal so that we can supply from AirClad end-to-end service, but also if clients need crew and need a resource for various levels, they can access our database and make contact with crew to support events they're doing. So we're rounding off the whole sort of network with the people. So this is all the people side of what we do. To support this in 2025, we have a new website that's been developed to streamline, as you see here. We have a new website being designed to streamline the products we offer. So we are moving very much focused on product design and development and innovation, and the network is very much developed on the deliverable and taking it to the market. And so part of the new website, we are going to clarify everything around event, architecture, retail, sleep, interior, and then we have the support and merch section. And the X is our general overview of what we're going on, a bit like a live social element of where you can see structures and what's happening at the time, what's new, what's fresh. But essentially we're dividing everything into the product categories, the main category being event. But we are, as you will see over the coming months, how that's evolving into other sectors. And there's just, as you go through, you'll see here how, the products, when you go in, event has a range of products, retail, etc. And this will grow out. And on the website, you will have more information on the product, and you can go deeper and deeper into each one. And it's more and more focused, so you're not all over the place. You're kind of going in a sector and deeper into what you need. And you see here we graphic visualization of the product, so it's clear to identify which products you're talking about, which category they're in, just to make it a much easier place to navigate and get an understanding of the product, so that gives the customers and yourself the confidence of knowing you're in the right place at the right time. And you see here with the XPO selection, as you go deeper into it, it goes from the kind of category to the family, and then to the range, and then to the size. So here you get into XPO 4 and 6, etc., which we hope is going to help make navigation and capturing the right information much better. Towards the end of 2025, we're going to begin developing the site further, introducing the configurator tool to allow people to configure different structures online. We're also going to create developer tools, because we are now seeing, as we standardise in the AirClad system, that we can create creative tools for people to design AirClads. So we want to open up the possibility for people to start exploring AirClad as well. And we'll also have stock availability and ordering. So basically, we have a lot more tech support to help deliver services to the business that make it much more responsive, and people will know what they've got and what's going on. So with stage 1 is clarity of range and products and sectors. Stage 2 is drilling in deeper into the kind of assets that we have and making tools available for people to use the site in a much more kind of, beyond just getting information, but actually using it to work with. We've also done a brand refresh, which develops from where we were with the kind of modular brand system, and now we've introduced a bit more, some more elements to the brand, where the font is swelling, and some more clarity over how the image is used, how the text is used. So we're trying to get, we're working to bring that through, so there's a uniqueness that people can see this is a modular considered brand that can grow and contract and stuff like that, and the brand font and everything emulates that. And you can see that in these pages, how it works, how the X is bold and prominent, how the different colorways for the different sectors. So like interiors has got the yellow, sleep has got the orange, retail has a pink, architecture has a more grey, warm grey, And so these are all our delineations between the ranges. And also another thing is the X for us stands for AirClad. So AirClad X is not a word. Technically it's AirClad. And so if you see X on its own, it means AirClad for us. So we are going to, over the coming months, years, we're going to develop the X more and more as the symbol of AirClad. And the word AirClad could be used less, I don't know. But basically, that's the way it is. So it's not AirClad X. X is not a word. It's AirClad. And if X is there alone, it's just AirClad.